Time to get all that in there. Welcome back, guys, and another video so soon after posting our last one. But that means one thing: we've got extra goodies to put in our car, and today is a very special one because we get to put in our roll cage. Now, for those of you who have been following along for some time now, I've been talking about getting this roll cage. I've been saving up for it, and earlier this year in May, my wife said to me for my birthday, you know what, go get your roll cage. So I did, and I ordered it, and it took a bit of time to get here because there's been so many lockdowns and stuff happening in Sydney from where AGI is located, the company that makes this cage. But I was willing to wait because it is such a great cage for these cars. Now, I haven't gone for a stock standard cage. I've gone for a little bit higher level cage than what is probably required, but I'll explain that a little bit later as to exactly why I've done that. But have a look at this. I have opened up the box. If you're a fan of flat pack furniture, much like myself, this is going to be an adventure. It's a giant puzzle. Essentially, this cage is a bolt-in roll cage. It bolts all together and you put it in the car and it fits perfectly. It's made on a jig for this chassis. The reason why I've gone for a flat pack roll cage like this is two reasons. One, it's probably a little bit cheaper for the level of cage that I went for than a weld-in roll cage. And two, if I was ever to crash this car and bend the chassis and ride it off, this cage is stout enough that essentially you can unbolt it, pull it out, check it all over and bolt it straight into another cage. So I'm not paying for a whole new roll cage for another car. I'm not committed to that chassis. So given how cheap these chassis are going for, you can pick up a chassis for $500–600. Investing in a decent roll cage that I can then pull out if I need to and put back in another car was something that I was really keen on. So it's now time to get that in there, but there's a few different things that we need to do to this car before we actually get it in there, and I'll explain that very shortly. Okay, so the first thing we have to do to our car is we have to take this seat out, which is very easy because it's not actually bolted into the car just yet. We're gonna have to get rid of the steering, or pull the steering wheel off. The gauges, I might just try and leave the shifter mechanism and the controls and stuff so I don't have to undo all the wiring. Pull the main stuff out. The dash we're gonna have to pull out because we actually have to cut into them just around here. But what I will do is I'm just gonna take up some measurements of that first before I actually start cutting. So I'll pull the main stuff out, and then down on the floor, because we actually plated our floor pan down here so it stayed level, where the cage sits, it's actually, the plate's actually a 2mm thick plate. So down here I'm just gonna have to cut a bit out, cut through some of those welds. It is all welded up, so I'll just have to cut through some welds. It's still gonna be safe once we cut it out, but I think I'm only gonna have to cut a small patch just down here out for the foot of the cage to sit in. So without further ado, let's get this car pulled apart. Gauge cluster is out, steering column is dropped, seat is out, gauges that are in were out, steering wheel's off, and now it looks like it's time to start just trimming up this floor pan. I will be repainting it. It's just been scratched up having the seat in there and me sitting in there just trying to figure stuff out. Trim up the floor pan and then take some measurements on the dash so we can get the cuts in the right place. Okay, we've got it marked out here, just along there, straight up there, so not much to cut out, only 2 welds that we need to cut, which is nice. And we'll get out the, I think I might just try with the Dremel. It's going to take a bit of time with the Dremel, but I don't want to cut through the bottom floor pan, and because this is just sitting on top of the actual floor pan, I don't want to cut deep through there, so I want to take my time and just go steady and cut it out that way. So let's see how we do. Okay, after a bit of persuading, bit of cutting, a bit of grinding, we've got that corner section cut out, which now I'll just give it a good squirt of paint, wipe it down first, as well as everything else in here, and give it a squirt of paint, and then we'll be good to put the cage in. So that now we'll match up with the other side in height, and if we need to cut a bit more out, we can, but I'm pretty sure that should be fine based on the measurements I've taken. Alright, fresh coat of paint on the floor pan, looking absolutely spectacular. It's still drying. You can see where I've made the cut there. Looking at the pictures that AGI send with their cage, the mounting plate should go just along there and up there. So we'll wait and see, but that should be enough, more than enough there. Still welded here in the corner, still welded there, all welded down the sides, as you can see, and then down along there, and then actually underneath the chassis as well. It's tack welded along there as well, so it's nice and strong. And we'll get the cage in, hopefully probably tomorrow or the next day. I got to wait for my dad to come over and help me. It's a 2-man job, this thing. The next thing we need to do is get that dash out, but I'm just going to take some measurements first, because I'm going to do a bit of cleaning up of the dashboard and trim off some of these broken bits along there, just so it makes my legs and my feet a bit easier to fit in there. We'll see how we go. Sweating like a gypsy with a mortgage. I'll tell you what, it is hot today. There must be a storm on the way up here in Townsville, but looks like a bit of a mess, but I've actually tidied it up a lot. There's cables running different which ways. That's only because I need them to run that when I put the cage in, before I put the dash back and put everything where else I need it. And then we can get it in. Then we've got to take a few measurements. I've got some masking tape here for it's the height of the actual dash that it sits at. So we can take some measurements and cut some holes in the dash for where the cage will be going through, because it is a through dash cage. So I suppose now I'll tell you what actual cage I went for. I actually chose the national spec cage. It's not the top of the line cage, it is the one down from that. Couple reasons why. First reason, I want to be as safe as possible, and I have no doubt that there's some other cages out there that aren't as sophisticated as this one that do a fantastic job. I'm not saying they don't. Personally, for my safety, more bars the better. And secondly, if I want to take people for a ride in this car, eventually, I want them to be just as safe as what I am. So I want them to be protected as well. Secondly, it did cost a lot more than what your normal standard state level cage will cost. But as my friend Byron over in the States said to me one day, it's cheaper than a funeral. So we've got our national spec cage in here. And if you have a look closely, you might be able to see some of the different bars through the bubble wrap. When we put it all together, I'll show you exactly what it's like. But you've got windscreen pillar bars, you've got double door bars. The main hoop's got double diagonals with a harness bar. Through the backstays, you got diagonals through the backstays. So it's a It's a fairly stout cage, but I want to be safe. So we'll be getting onto that in a couple of days, or tomorrow hopefully. So if I'll see you then when we come back and put this cage in. Roll cage day. It's roll cage day. I've been waiting for this day for so long, and we've finally got our backstays in, just sitting on some old strips of carpet there just to keep it protected. I just had to get some get that in first before I put the main hoop in. I've also just put some foam around the bottoms of it so it doesn't scratch it up, and then once we get it in place we'll just pull those off. But this main hoop, I tell you what, it is an absolute mega bit of kit. It is very, very strong and stout. So they actually use a bigger pipe for the main hoop than all the other ones, just for a bit of strength across the middle there. And then you've got the backstays, and then all the other pieces still wrapped up down here. Oops. All the bubble wrap there, and all the other pieces down here, all wrapped up. So just waiting for my dad to get here, and then finally we'll get into getting this cage in, and I cannot wait. Oh, what a mission. Got the backstays in. We've got a bunch of foam here just protecting it at the moment. Main hoop, and we've got the front pillar bars here. We've got to get the other side in, and then the top crossbar, and then we can start measuring up for our dash, and then it's pretty much almost got to come back out fractionally. So continue on. Back for another day of getting this cage in. Now I know yesterday wasn't the greatest filming. We were just busting our backside to get the main hoop, backstays, and the front legs in the car. And if you have a look, they are looking absolutely fantastic. The front legs are here. I don't know if you can see how tight the fitment is to the dash there. Nice and neat. When I did this dash, because it's going, the bars, this bar goes through the dash, I didn't want to hack up the dash and chop as much out as possible. I wanted to keep the cuts to a minimum, and I reckon I've achieved that because it looks absolutely schmick. If you have a look in here, nice and tidy all around there. And then got those bars in. All we've got left now is the windscreen bar, the side intrusion bars, and then we've got 2 bars, diagonal bars through the roof. So we're going to get to that and finish this cage off today, so then we can bolt it all the way down onto the chassis and make it look mint. Now normally they ask you to put the windscreen bar in first, but I had a bit of a play around with this last night, and these side intrusion bars actually pull the cage out, which makes it easy to get the bar in. So that's why we're doing this one first. Man, that's starting to look really nice now. Just a few more bars to go, about 3 more bars to go, and that is in, and then we can start mounting it straight to the chassis. So I'm stoked with that. It's going to look awesome when it's done. bolted in apart from through the chassis, which we're about to do next. And it says to not tighten up the bolts on the cage before you bolt it through the chassis, but that thing's not going anywhere. She's fairly well tied up. You can see up there, she's right up against the chassis. And now just to drill our holes through our feet and through the backstays, and that'll be done. I've got a little helper down here. Hey Tay. Yeah? I'm getting old. Now on this cage, it's secured on the backside with a foot plate on the other side, and some beefy bolts and washers, like so. So we'll now throw these on and get it all taken care of, because these are quite steady, about 5, I think it's 3 or 5 mil steel. That was quite the adventure, getting those all lined up, getting the bolts in. Luckily I've got long arms, I can get one arm inside the car, one underneath it, and do them all up nice and tight. So if we have a look here, dodging all the bars, you can see we've got the bolts in there, and then underneath, just there. And now it's time for the bottom feet, which the area that I actually cut out worked out to be absolutely perfect. So I'll do that side, the other side, and then we've got the front feet down there that we have to do also. So before it gets too late, we'll get to it. I had to have a change of shirt because it's quite hot today. There's the 3 bolts there. That's 1 foot done. Word of advice when doing these, don't try and do one up at a time. Just inch them in piece by piece. There's 3 per foot, apart from the backstays there's 2. Get one going, then go on to your next one, get it going, go to the third one, get it going, and just work your way between the 3 and slowly get it up, because the floor pan's not actually flat underneath, and as the foot plate comes up, it kind of essentially squishes together and flattens out and pulls the floor pan up. So onto the final 3. Well, we'll shut it down for tonight. It's a bit of a couple of days, this adventure of putting this cage in, but that's alright. I'm a one-man show and one-man wrecking crew, and so far I've been able to get all that bar work in there with the help of my dad for a day, and then the rest of it I was able to do myself. So cage is in, it's bolted in. I do need to tighten up some of the mounts, and then we'll be able to put a few more goodies in there tomorrow, which I'm very excited about, and then we'll be done. The cage is in, and then I'll, in the daylight, show you what it's going to be like for me to actually get into this car. It's tricky, very tricky. All right, back for the final part of this build. It's taken a couple of days, but I'd rather take it my time, do it right, and get it exactly how I want, and doing it by yourself takes a bit of extra time, so fun times. Anyway, moving on. You'll see in this car there's some silver tabs just hanging down from up there, and that would be because we have a nice big mirror going in. Now this is all from Brown Davis. I did have to modify the brackets that hold the mirror up, only because they wouldn't fit around the cage with the windscreen top bar that goes in. So I just modified them a little bit. Still strong, still sturdy. And then we'll get these this mirror in, which is absolutely massive when you put it in the car. It's about 17 inches wide, and by all accounts gives you a big field of view when you look in your mirror. So we'll get that in now and see how it looks. One job done. So the next little job we've got to do is remove that epoxy steering knob, the gear shift knob, and put on a Sparko one. Picked up this from, I think, super cheap. It was about 35 bucks, 40 bucks. And we'll crack this open, stick it on, so she really starts to look like a race car with our big mirror. We'll get it all back together. Then I'll put the seat in and show you what it's like to actually climb into this thing now that we've got our cage in. There we go. Alright, and then put the seat in. See what it's like when I actually sit in this thing. That's our seat in there. That's as far back as it'll actually go. And if you have a look back here, if you can see it, seat's just resting on that taxi bar, the crossbar. So I'll put a bit of foam on the back of the seat just to protect the seat so it doesn't rub too much. But because my seat is so wide, when I cut the floor pan, I actually had to obviously cut some of it out, as you saw at the start of the video. But it also means we could move my car inboard, and I'm now in line with the center of the steering wheel. So maybe a little bit dusty, but if you look here, it's about the line of the steering wheel. You can see it line straight up down the car like so. But what it also means is, because I'm not using one of the seat brackets from AGI, that these harness mounts here don't exactly line up, but that's okay. I'll just wrap it around the bar here. So it also means we've got a good amount of space between the side here and the seat. There's a bit of room to play there. But big question now is, how am I actually going to get into this car? Because distance between here and here is not real big when you're 6'10", world's tallest driver, race car driver, trying to fit into this car. So let's see how we go. Now, obviously this seat is not bolted in. How we're going to bolt that in, we'll get to that when we actually do that, but Motorsport Australia has certain recommendations or regulations on how this seat gets bolted in. We'll be choosing one of those ways. It'll keep the seat as low as possible, but right now, because this seat's not bolted in, it's going to make it a little bit difficult getting in the car. So we might have to try a few different ways. I've tried one way, and it was a little bit difficult. So we'll see if we can figure out a different way. Let's try it. That was much easier than the other way. Push the seat all the way back. So that's my knees on the brake and the clutch. That's my foot on the gas. Still got a bit of wiring to clean up down there. Steering wheel. It's got a cover on it at the moment. There we go. Much comfy. I'm very happy with that. And space between the bars for my head and my helmet. I feel incredibly protected in this roll cage. Some bars here, side intrusion bars are quite close to my elbows, but that's alright because I'll be even swinging my arm where the steering wheel sits. It's not going to hit unless I turn, but I usually keep my elbows in when I turn and I drive like that. Shoulders protected, head protected, mirror. Mirror could probably swing around a little bit towards me, but we'll fix that up. But compared to a go-kart, this is really comfy. Really comfy. So I'm really stoked how this cage turned out, how the dash turned out. Now with the dash, I showed you earlier how we tried to make it as close as possible to the bars so we're not cutting big chunks out. Essentially all we did is we got one leg in, this right hand leg, and then we got the dash in. We cut where we thought we needed to because we took some measurements off the side of the chassis, cut around it, got it to fit until we're happy with that. And then we took the measurements off the right hand side, applied it to the left, and when it came to putting the dash in, you would have seen all the steering column was dropped down. We then got the right hand side in, snuck it into place, and then the left hand leg here, we slid into place with the dash, and I have to say it went in super easy, super easy. So if you're thinking about doing it, I could probably, if you have any questions about how I got the dash to be that close, just drop me a message. I will I'll take some measurements for you and I'll let you know. But super easy, and it looks really neat because there's not big gaps right around there, because I know there's big air vents you can cut out and get it in that way, but this went in very easily. So I am actually super excited to get it out on track now, because this is really comfy. I could sit here most of the day. Look at that, hey? Perfect for the steering wheel. Smaller steering wheel, which is nice. Sweating. Gear shift. I will be getting a short shifter for this and take up all the play in this steering wheel. But third, fourth, fifth, neutral, handbrake, start buttons can reach. Those, I probably could have put some buttons up here, but I actually like them down here. So I don't have to go from there, snake around, I can just go down, flick them. Very happy, very happy with the way this turned out. Now I just got to get out. I think that'll be the biggest issue. I might have to slide myself out the side, especially since the seat's not bolted down and my big backside's stuck in here. Anyway, very happy guys. This roll cage, ducks nuts. If you get a chance and you want to put a cage in like this, there is one level up from this, which is bars to the firewall and then a bar underneath the dash as well. All the same bars, and it also has bars that go to the B-pillar bars brackets there too. So just a few little tweaks to this cage, but I'm very happy with this cage. It's super strong, it does not move. I don't know what to say, guys. AGI builds spectacular cages. It takes a bit of time to get them, but it's definitely worth the wait, because these things, super stout, super strong. Can't knock them. guess I have to put some padding in these cages now because I think I'll need it. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.